Picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
Morning, welcome back everybody. It's week 3 on the Sandcrawler build, and we are starting serious work on the tracks today. And the tracks are such an elaborate part of this and such an iconic part of this that it almost requires another chapter of Meet the Parts, because there are quite the abundance of them and they all go together in a particular way. I will put together or slap together one particular track just to show you what has to be done. All of these parts need some cleaning still. But what you have for each of these, and there are 4 sets. Now I'm going to show you what the components of one set is. You take one centerpiece. You start with that. Let me move some of the stuff out of the way and make it easier for you. You take one centerpiece, that's on camera. One centerpiece, one left track, one right track, and you know that because the gear is on the left hand side, gear is on the right hand side. They go together in such a way that the gears match up each other, but this goes in the center of them. So it goes like this. Again, cleaning is necessary, but it lines up like this when it's all done, and you can see the axles here will kind of line up. So that's the main trolley system. And then after you do this, you put a set of treads on both sides of it. Now again, let me pick out some that are close to clean. This isn't even close to clean. This is probably the closest one. So I'll show you this one. But it fits over the track like this. Now Randy had mentioned warming these up in the boiling water to get them to fit. Because they're not clean yet, I can't really show you exactly how they go, but they go something like this. Yeah, like I said, it's not 100% clean yet. So do I have a cleaner one? I don't. Wait, yeah, I do have a cleaner one. This is one that I did some serious cleaning work on. That's what I knew. I had one that was a better example, but it looks something like this, and then it goes like that, and then the other one goes on the outside of it like that, and then there is a faceplate that goes like that when you're all done. And there's a faceplate inner and a faceplate, or outer and inner, and then this constitutes one of the tracks. And then this gets attached to the underside of the tub, and we have happy Jawas. So it is overcast. It's been raining off and on, but not so much that I can't go out on the back deck and do a lot of cleaning, because that's how nice it's supposed to fit. But you can see in some of these cases even the holes aren't even opened up. So I'm going to start by taking each of the center pieces. This is a centerpiece, this is a centerpiece, and get these kind of cleaned up and organized. And what I want to do is just take the Dremel out on the deck and do the basic cleaning, like getting this cleaned out. And then I can come in here with smaller tools, even though they are still sanders. I can have a vacuum running on it while I'm sanding to collect the dust, because and I'll be wearing a respirator, because this is resin dust and you don't want it anywhere near your lungs if you want a long and happy life. You don't want it said that he died for a Sandcrawler. That's not what you want on your tombstone. Now, killed by robots, that's one thing. Killed by robots would be great. Shot by a laser, that'd be a way to go. But because he breathed resin dust is not a good epitaph. Okay, so here's a piece of advice for free. I find the best way when you're doing something like this and you've got an assembly line, or you've got a mass-produced item where you're doing a bunch of the same thing over and over again, what I call repetitive motion sickness, is to get yourself a pile that you, when you're done with a piece, you put it way away in another pile, so that you don't confuse yourself with, oh, have I touched that piece yet? Have I gone through that piece yet? because invariably you'll find yourself picking something back up and wondering whether you finished it or not. So I started with these guys because it was the simplest. It's flat on the back. This is the most showy part of it, though, because this is the iconic look of the tread. It looks like that. So this is the part you got to get right. And in some of these pieces, the quality was not as good as others. Different molds, I don't know what. But some of them are very crisp and clean, and some of them, the holes were almost closed over, and I had to dig them out and clean them up. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to go through and I'm going to pick the best 4, because the best 4 are the ones that are going to be visible, and then the other 4 are going to go on the inside tracks, and you're not going to see them. They're going to be there, they're necessary, but they're not as visible as the others. So I'm picking the cleanest ones with the crispest lines and the best thickness. Problem, see, this one is very nice, but see how uneven the thickness of it is. That might be something that's better off in the back. This one's good. This one's good. They don't all have to have the same thickness as each other, but they need to be fairly uniform. Let's see, is that one? This one's got the cleaner hole. It's yeah, okay. These are my 4 outside ones, and these are my 4 inside ones. So I'll put those over to here and over to there. Now I've also cleaned these guys up. They're the least visible. You're going to see this part and down through the middle, but you're not going to see any of the sides. So they all get covered up like that. Anyway, the important thing is that they've been sanded flat, and that they match up this way as far as the axles. So I've gone through and I've cleaned up the inner parts, the outer parts. I have to clean these guys up. These ones have not been cleaned. These ones could stand a little bit more. So we'll do these center bits, and then we'll get all these kind of built and put together. They're going to be painted long before we put the tracks on them, because there's just no way to get the paint into them with the tracks on them. So the tracks will happen last. The tracks actually have a different color to them depending. Now I'm looking at the movie, the full-size set piece. At least the full-size set piece, the tracks are the same color as, or the treads are the same color as the wheels and the gears and everything. It's that rust brown. But for the sake of grins and giggles, what they call grits and shiggles, I'm going to make them a little blacker, make them look like they're of a different metal, simply to break up all of the sameness of all those colors. So just like I did on the inserts on the tub, where I made the inserts, I put a black base on them first. I'm going to do the same thing with the treads, but we're a long way from worrying about painting. Let's get these guys cleaned up first, and then we can worry about painting. Ready, I'm back. I had to do some cleanup, and I mean of me, and also of the table, because I had to do some big sanding. Well, first we'll start with this. We've got these 4 clusters put together. There's some sanding that needs to get done with this now that these pieces are all together. Something to even them up. Now again, you're not going to see but a bare portion of this by the time we get the treads on. So I needed to see how much of this was actually going to be visible once the treads are on, and there's not really a good way of doing that outside of getting the treads cleaned up. So that kind of necessitated the next step, which is getting the treads cleaned up. Now I watched Randy's video, his suggestion on how to do it. Yeah, you could, but not when there's power tools in the world. There are power tools in the world for a reason, and what I did was I went on the belt sander. I took the belt sander and I set it up, started it going, and basically sat. This is the visible side. This is the tread side. It's got this detail. The inner edge doesn't have that. So all you need to do is get rid of all the flashing, because that's how it was poured. So basically I took this flat side, pretend this is the belt that is going, 100 mile an hour, and I basically just went zzz, zzz, down on the belt sander till I got rid of that ridge. And everything stays together. Now the last thing I need to do is to clean out in between the treads. That work still has to be done. I'm doing that with a smaller Dremel where I can just kind of go in and let's see, I have one that's already done, where I can go in with the Dremel and just cut the teeth in here. I am debating whether I'm going to do the inside one or not. The inside doesn't really need to be done, I think, except, well, it does. I mean, it needs to be done on the edges here because this is what's going to be seen. If I took this, say this is my left front edge, and this is going to go up front under the nose. Let's just say here's the nose and the ramp. This is the front. Well, I've got to clean up these edges. I've got to clean up, you know, just as much as what's going to be visible. So not all of them certainly, but a goodly, at least around here. So that's the next step. I can get all of these. I can start cleaning these up. I can paint this with a primer coat to get it ready to go. And I think if it stays dry outside for a little bit longer, I might see if I can get done with that today. It's been raining off and on and not reliable. And I'm going to be using the big terracotta colored primer, sandable primer paint for that. So I kind of need to have, you know, access to the great wide open because that's where it's going to be painted. But I'm not in a rush. That can hang on until tomorrow. I can do some more cleanup and touch the details on here if I wanted to. But I think a good way to spend the rest of the day would be to go in and clean these guys out. Alrighty, I think we're at a point where I can show you one cleaned up track. Don't know much to say about it. We got the good side here. We got the bad side here. Well, the detailed side here, the plain side there. That's the inboard side. And if working on what was it? The Granny Jalopy taught me anything, is that the end result can be covered up by a lot of application of glue, of rust and dirt and all that. So for what it needs to do at this point, that's darn good. I want to see individual treads. I can see individual treads. It's going to lay in there, and then of course that plate's going to go on the front of it. So it's going to accomplish its goal. And I decided to go ahead and clean out the treads the whole length, not just the segments. Put the segments in the whole length, not just around the front edges. So it's good practice. I just got 7 more of these to go. Alrighty, I think we found a good place to stop for today. I've got 4 of the tracks cleaned up, these guys. I've got 4 more that need to be dressed up, but we can do that in the morning. And then we will proceed. Now, unfortunately, the weather never did cooperate enough for me to get out and get any paint on anything. So we'll leave that for later in the week then, I guess, as well. As I said, the priming has to happen on these inner carriages before I can do anything else on them. Also, I need to put the primer on the underside of the tub before I attach these to it as well. So, yeah, we're off to a good start for a Monday, but lots of stuff left to do in this week. Oh, there! It's Tuesday! Yay! It's Tuesday and work is continuing on the treads now. You'll see that the most of the table is barren at this point. And that's because, yes, I have finally started putting color on the parts that I had cleaned yesterday. And it's sitting out in various places, some in the kitchen, some outside on the deck still. But the sun is shining today. It's supposed to get up into the low 60s, so it'll be a perfect day for getting some color on the big tub. Now it's going to be that really reddish, primer, sandable primer, auto paint color. I swear that's gotten redder over the last few years. I remember when that used to be more of a terracotta color. The color of Bondo, and now it's almost into the red spectrum. So now we're only putting that on so that we can save paint when it comes to putting on the brown layers. It's so much easier to paint brown over red than it is brown over gray. So that's what we're doing with that. Like I said, I've got the inner gubbins that's being sprayed, and the faceplate. So let's get these last 4 sets of treads cleaned up. These are the clean ones from yesterday. These are the ones that have not been cleaned up. So we'll do these first thing, and then we're going to get these primed with a coat of black, like we did the big greebly areas and the alcoves. We primed those with a black, and then went over top of those with I think it was a gunmetal, and then a brownish on that. And I think that's how we're going to treat our treads. Okay, so we're out on the deck. I have got a first coat of the reddish brown sandable primer on the visible areas. I wanted, more importantly, to get the bottom done so that I can start when it comes time to attach the treads, I can. But you can see this does look a little browner outside in the daylight, but it's still mighty red. And I said it's only a primer coat, and that's to keep the brown paint that I'm going to put on top of it for him having to work so hard. Hopefully you can see where I've got masking covering the openings and the wind and the lights. We're going to let that sit hour or so, flip it over and do the other side. That's all that's missing. I was able to get most of the sides from here. I probably could have laid it on its top and done a better job, but I wanted to get some of the top sprayed. But there you go. We'll check back on this in a little bit. Well, I have got all of the tracks cleaned. We have finished with the I will say the mechanical version of all of the cleaning. As far as let me say I'm done with the big tools. There still might be a file and some sandpaper here and there, but as far as the mechanical tools, I think we're done assaulting the Sandcrawler with the big tools. See, these are nice and pliable now because they're all cleaned out. And next thing to do would be to go ahead and get a black primer on all of these. And this would allow, let's see, that's the insides and the outsides of both sets. So we can take these out and bring in the distressingly red brick of the big body shell. Now the next thing to do would be to paint these up and closer to their final colors, at least, before we attach them to the bottom of the tub itself, and paint the bottom of the tub closer to its actual color. And I'm waiting for that brown paint that Randy specifically calls out. I ordered up a couple bottles of that, and it should be being delivered today from Amazon. So I'm kind of in a holding pattern until that stuff arrives, because that's going to be the next layer, and that will be put on with the airbrush. Hello everybody, it's Wednesday and work is trying to continue on the Sandcrawler. Now I've been notified that my brown paint coming from Amazon is delayed, which is uncharacteristic because I normally get things pretty quick from Amazon, which is why I don't hesitate to order something at the last minute when I need it, but it's let me down this time. So I thought we'd go back and look at these treads some more. Now obviously the brown I've been using a little bit of Tamiya browns just to paint up the areas in here between the wheels, just to see how that's going to look. It really isn't anything approximating the final color. I just wanted to see how everything was laying down. It's kind of funky when you think of these treads as brand new, and it makes me wonder, the Jawa Sandcrawler, was it manufactured and built by the Jawa species? Was it commandeered by Jawas and taken over? Was it captured in the desert like the rest of their, like the way they captured droids and things like that? was it ever brand new? And if it was brand new, did it have black treads like this? I'm trying to imagine what something like this would be. Now, these, if they're anything like tank treads, the first thing that goes is paint job on them, because they're going to be, wiped out by the first bit of weathering. So, it's good to have it there, but it's never meant to be the final color. So I'm thinking that I want to go with a metallic over top of that, leave the black in the recesses, and then we'll go with a brown over top of that, just because the whole rest of the thing was brown. My best references show it as being a slightly blacker brown than the rest, but that's about all I can get out of it. So when you stack them together like this, you kind of get an idea how they are going to look. Now, if I'm remembering correctly, there is no spacing in between the two tracks in the front, and then the tracks in the back are a little bit further apart because you've got that T-shaped thing that goes here. So it's not that they are, 2 upon 2. These ones here are actually narrower, and these ones are wider. So it's going to sit something like that in the grand scheme of things. So I think what I might need to do is it's going to be, let's see, today's Wednesday. Happy Valentine's Day, by the way. It's Wednesday. It's Valentine's Day. I think it's not supposed to be till tomorrow that the brown paint is supposed to get here. So I may go through some of my leftover jars of Tamiya and just play with some different applications of the brown and see how it looks. I don't want to use so much that it's going to build up and start hiding the detail. A lot of the plating and the panel lines in the big tub, the panel lines aren't that deep, and I don't want to run into the problem that I had with the V shuttle, and that is that I put so much paint over it that it closed over the panel lines. Don't want that to happen. I did take the opportunity while the printer was cooperating, to print up some Jawas. Now this one's way too big. It's way too out of scale. Actually, if you want to talk about scale, these are probably more correct in scale to the Sandcrawler than the rest. And I did a couple different sizes, and I may go back and do a third size that is a little bit taller than that. Going back to the movie, they're not very tall. Even the tallest droid is only about halfway up the track. So if you have a 6 foot, did I keep it? Is he here? Did I set it down? Because there he is. I was using this 72 scale Luke and R2 just as a passing reference. He put them next to it. The droid should be about, the Jawa should be about the same size as R2, maybe a little shorter. So it's not out of the ballpark. It's kind of in the same ballpark. Now I'm looking again at the suction tube and noticing it's a little bit bigger than I remembered it being, but R2 fit up pretty easily. It wasn't a question of it being the same size as R2. So maybe I can go just a hair bigger than these, and somewhere obviously between this and this. I was thinking I might make just a big Jawa. It's the same file, I just printed it different sizes, but maybe make a larger one just as a mascot type of thing to kind of go with it, not intending it to be an in-scale Jawa. So that's kind of where my brain is at today, and we'll pick this up in a little bit. Okay, while I am waiting for the other paint to come in, I went through my stockpile, my stash of rattle cans, and I found this, which I had squirreled away in the back. It's a Rust-Oleum heavy rusty metal primer, but it is more of the brown that I was expecting the other one to be. So I went ahead and I took the undercarriage parts and the face plates for those parts, took them back outside, put a coat of this primer on them. Now they're going to be a lot more forgiving than the bulk of the body is, and I'm going to talk over you. they're more forgiving. The detail is a lot more pronounced, and then, you know, by the time you get the treads on, you're just going to cover up most of it anyway. But I'm wanting to go ahead and give them a coat of that brown to see how it's going to look, and how well it's going to dry and all that kind of good nonsense. I'm still hesitant. Let's just say I'm hesitant to put another coat of primer over the tub for fear that I'm going to close up too much detail. If I do that, there may be certain areas that I think will be okay to do it on, maybe all the greebly areas, but not the flat planes, if it makes any sense, not the sidewalls, and save that for the actual paint. I could certainly do the undercarriage with it if I wanted to, because that undercarriage, again, it's going to be very forgiving by the time I get all the parts on it. So it's a wonderful afternoon outside for priming. The sun is shining, the temperatures are mild. I should be doing that kind of work outside today. So I'm going to let the undercarriage parts dry for about an hour, bring them back in, take the tub outside, and maybe just spray the undercarriage parts with it. Well, this brown is a much happier brown, a much better brown than the reddish paint we had on this earlier. I'm trying to find a place maybe where the red paint didn't cover so I can show you the difference. I'm going to let these dry. Trying to find an edge here that I didn't get so that you can see. No, I guess I covered them pretty well. But we're going to let all that dry. The thing about the rattle can paint is it does take longer to dry than... Oh, well, here's a piece. There's the piece that's got the red on it, and you can maybe see the difference between the red and the brown there. But we're going to let this stuff set and come back to it after a while. This was quite lovely and unexpected. No sooner am I playing around with these treads on the Java Sandcrawler than I hear a knock at the front door. Go to answer because, you know, the mail's already gone for today. I don't know what to expect. It could be anything. Could be anybody. See a lovely package left upon my front stoop. And what is in it? But a gift from Keith over at Cosmic Scale Models. You know him, you love him. You can't get enough of him. He's Keith from Cosmic Scale Models. He sent me a squad ship. He sent me the companion piece to the Skyfighter. Now, I don't know what to make of this, Keith, because, you know, I don't know what you're trying to tell me, but he sent me a set of masks for it. Kind of like carrying coals to Newcastle, Keith. That's all I'm going to say. But they look to be quite nice. It's nice to see how somebody else does the same exact thing you do every day. But these look... See, this was the only part I didn't have was these guys. I was going to offer to make these for Keith for sale on his site. He had already beat me to the punch. But I'm holding no grudges. I'm holding no grudges. This will be interesting to build. I don't know exactly when I will get to it. I'd like to get to it fairly quickly because I want to do something different with it than I did with the Skyfighter. I'm going to leave this door closed and just use the opening of the actual pod and use that ramp. Still use everything as if it were landed, but I think I'm going to use... I just love the way this thing is designed. It's engineered. Of course, you use the same parts for the front and the back of the Skyfighter, but then you have this carrier, troop carrier, inside here, and I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave this door closed, but open this up because it's got big gull wing doors on it, and that'll be a lot of fun. So look for that on the channel in the very near future. Good morning, everybody. It's Thursday. It's the gateway to the weekend, and as I thought I would, I broke down. I bowed to convenience, and I went ahead and painted this thing with the brown primer that I had on hand. I don't seem to have covered up any panel lines or anything, but this is the last of the base coating. Anything I do on top of this is going to be accent colors, and it's going to be weathering on top of this. I'm not gonna try to douse this again. So let's kind of pick this up turn it around. I haven't tried lighting it for a while, so I'm kind of curious to see if everything is holding steady. Those are still working. Now all of the windows are covered up with vinyl right now, so, or all the lights are covered up with vinyl, so it might be a little bit tougher to see what's going on. Let me see if I can go ahead and peel these guys out. Oh yeah, we're still seeing inside all of our little niches and all of that. I have been playing with the Java file the last few days, trying to print something that was an appropriate size. These guys are tiny, so it doesn't make sense that they would be huge inside of the Sandcrawler. But I would like enough of them, or I would like them to be big enough that I could, let's see, if I wanted to put one in here, just pop this open. If I wanted to stick one in here, do I need to? Yes, I do. Sorry, pardon the reach, but I need to get the tweezers. If I wanted to put one of these little dudes up in here, then that's a little big. I think I would want to go with something this size. I would want to go with something this size, he says as he drops it. I think I would want to go with one like right there. I think that works. Just to give it a little, the evidence of somebody being home. Of course, it's way too late to try to put anybody up in the bridge, and I don't know that that would work anyway, given how yeah, the headlights are still lighting. I can see a lot of light blocking that needs to be done on those, though. If I were to try to sneak somebody up through a window up here, I'm wondering how well that would work. Yeah, he would never be able to go, and by the time I stuck him in, you'd never see him. So yeah, we'll close those back up. Starting to paint the treads. Now, you don't want them to be that dark black color, because those might be, excuse me, those might be factory new treads. Those might be how they came from the Java Goodyear tread factory, but that's not how we want them to look. So I'm starting with a German gray, and I'll just go over progressively lighter and lighter until I get to a color that I think is going to work. Here you can see a original black one versus one that I have painted with a German gray. And it's German gray going over black, so it's even a little bit darker than normal. But we're going to do that to the other form. Basically, I wanted to do a set, kind of see how that looked, and then I would carry that over the rest of the treads. You don't want to set yourself up for doing everything and having the whole thing be wrong. I'd rather do one that I like and then remember how I did that and carry that over the rest of them. So that was the first pass, and I think we're ready for maybe a second pass. Looking on these side plates, and a lot of the full-scale reference of the set piece seems to show this gradient of sand color to the bottom here, and it's a lot more obvious in the splashes and the dry brushing, and I'm going to do some of that later on, but there also seems to be just a general color here. So I think what I'm going to try to do is airbrush the rest of these just with a base that goes kind of along on the bottom half of these, and then I can throw in some larger splashes on top of that to break it up and make it look less spray painted, for lack of a better term. I'm getting a look that I'm starting to like, and I'm making a list of paints I need to go pick up, and this is the wooden deck tan over as a shading for the bottom, but I need to get myself a sponge or a wire brush, and or a real stiff toothbrush or something, nail brush, so that I can do some speckling of the paint, because I really like how that one's coming out with the mottled look on it. And you put that up against the treads, which I put just a spray of the, or a spritz. And for once I am using the paint really thick and gloppy, and I'm getting all of the little spots that I want. I want the speckledness, but I'm trying that on the treads to get some of the dirt color in there. But I think by the time you lay something like that up, I'm really enjoying how that's looking. I think we're starting down the road that I want to end up on. Alright, I just took a long leisurely trip to the hobby shop to get some paint. I've got about 20 different browns here. The irony is I'll end up using probably one or two. Some paints I had to replenish. Also got this big old jug of ballast because it's sand. And we're going to see. I think that needs to be sprinkled liberally along the top edge of places on the Sandcrawler where sand would rest. Wouldn't get blown off down in nooks and crannies. There's a particular picture of the top of the Sandcrawler that shows along in that indent on the top where a lot of sand is collecting. Got some chipping brown, some dark brown, some flat brown, some different browns. Picked up a couple different mediums. Desert Dust Wash, I can see where that might come in handy. Some Tamiyas, some Vallejo Mecha colors, some Model Air Vallejo colors, couple of different browns. Did you miss me while I was gone, Mr. Compressor? Did you go off and make noises while there was no one here to hear you? But yeah, I'm also thinking of the streaking that's going to happen on the tub. So yeah, I just bought a bunch of browns and we'll see if we end up using any of them. Morning everybody, it's Friday. It's the last work day of the week, the last day of this build for the week on the Sandcrawler. Finishing up, what is this, week 2? Seems already, or is it week 3? No, it just seems like it's gone on forever. What I'm doing today is I'm utilizing some of the paint that I picked up yesterday. I may have to run out and see if I can find a little craft sponge, because all of my sponges, of course, you use them once and then they get all crackly and hard and it's, good. So I may go pick up something. I have to do some errands this morning anyway. But what I've been doing this morning is using some of this Mecha Weathering Desert Wash. And it's green. I don't know why. I don't like it. It's green. It goes on green. But when it dries, boy, it does nice things. I really like how that is settling on the detail here, the detail work here. And I put some on this test track. It's a test track, and we're going to see if that's going to be a good solution. I really like how that's all starting to come together now. I think my goal for today is to get all of these tracks done and glued together, and outside of some final touch-up painting, they're going to be ready to install on the bottom of the tub. Now the tub, I've got to do a whole lot of painting on the bottom of the tub to get it ready for these, because that's one area you're never going to see again once you put the treads on, and I want to be able to get to those areas now while I can. So if I can get these guys done and kind of off stage, then that will allow me to bring the tub in here and do that final work. Looking back on the references, particularly on the full-scale set of the Sandcrawler tread that you see in two prominent scenes. You see it in the scene where Owen buys the droids in the first place, and then that's probably the best view of it. Then you see the destroyed version when Ben and Luke find the destroyed Sandcrawler. And I can't really go by the destroyed Sandcrawler look because that's not what I'm going for. But I notice on the auction or the sale scene, the used car scene, as I'm calling it, there is this spattering of paint on the face plates there. Doesn't really make a lot of sense. It has to be spattered paint, but if it were just the sand, it would not stick like that. It would fall down. So, that's how gravity works. So I'm going to try to emulate that look, even though it doesn't make the best of sense to me. Maybe what it is that this is underpaint. This is the undercolor, and this is chipped paint, where you're seeing the brown paint chipping off, and you're seeing the specks as a result of that. But I think that's the look they're showing, so that's the look I'm going to try to emulate. I did notice when I started working with these yesterday, though, I'm still not wildly happy with how inconsistent the thickness of these are. Some of them are, and that's the way they were cast. I mean, I sanded the backs of these, but I can tell you that I may want to go through and just take just another shave off the bottom of these. The bottoms are a lot thicker than the tops, and that's causing them to sit crookedly on here. I want it to sit flatter. These are the two areas, well, these are the three areas where the glue goes to hold these on, and it's kind of rocking back and forth on it. And I think if I slim these down just a little bit on the bottom, just a slight kiss of the belt sander, that's going to take some of this off just on the bottom edge. So I'm going to do that first thing before I start getting any paint out, because I don't want to spend a lot of time and end up sanding that off. So I think you can see here the varying thicknesses. I just want to make those a little bit more uniform. You can see how thin they are on the top here. So that's the first goal. And then the second goal is to go into these hubs, or these I guess gearboxes, for whatever you want to call them, and hit those with that sand, this sand dust wash just down the centers here. So let's do that first, because it's a morning, but it's not quite warm enough to spend a lot of time outside, particularly with the sander, because you gotta do the belt sanding outside. So let's get some more of that spray on these carriages. Okay, it's time to walk away from these, because it's getting close to lunchtime, and I'm on the verge of overworking these. I've just been throwing some mud effects and some different sand effects, like this sand wash, or the dust wash, over top of the carriages here, and the face plates. I did get these sanded down. They're a little bit more thin on the bottom side, which is good, or on the back side, which is good. And I've thrown about as much color at the treads as I want to do. So those are ready to go. I just need to figure out whether this needs an overall lightening or not. It's kind of dark up here, but then that's kind of the point. But I want to make sure that I'm not overdoing it. There shouldn't be a lot of rust. When I'm saying pooling rust, because that would indicate a lot of water. This is a desert planet. They don't have a lot of water. It's not like this goes through a lot of mud. It's not going to collect a lot of rust. There might be some oil grime. There might be some streaky grease where, you have to lubricate the tracks, that kind of stuff. But there wouldn't necessarily be water laying on it, moisture laying on it. So you're not going to get a lot of the traditional rust. Now you're going to have weathering, certainly. You're going to have, what happens when the sun beats down on metal, but you're not going to have the accumulation of rust that you would if it was going through, a snowy road with road salt, or if you were even just going through regular temperate climates where you might have water accumulating on your car. So I'm more concerned about the dust and the sand buildup, because sand, it's coarse, it gets everywhere, but that's why I don't like it. But that's the kind of stuff that I'm thinking about, more of a dust accumulation and a sand accumulation than a particular amount of runny grime or runny rust. Okay, so it's time to finally start putting some of these pieces together. I have taken all of the 4 axle assemblies, and I've put a tread on I've faced them all the same way, even though that means 2 of them are going the other way, because the drive gear is up front in all cases. So that is actually, this will be the inside of this side, and this will be the outside of this side. You know how it goes. Anyway, I am trying to figure what's the best spacing for this, and it looks like if we pretend that the gears of this are fitting in this pocket right here, see how they fit in there? If we pretend that that's how that goes, and we line up everything else with that, that will give us just enough clearance between the inside track and these supports. I don't want them to be, I would like to have a little bit of space between them there, something like that, just a little bit there. So I'm trying to figure out how to make that happy and make this consistent at the same time. But if we do that and then put the other one on the other side and do the same kind of spacing there, as long as my space between the post, the center post, and the inside and outside treads are consistent, then I will be happy. Now we've got an issue of how to get the glue in there that's going to work the best. I'd kind of like to use a slow epoxy on it, because that will allow me to do some maneuvering while the epoxy sets up. If I put CA on them and then try to fit them over, then CA is going to seize right up on it, and I'm not going to have enough time to get it into position. The other thing to do, it would be to maneuver it to where I want it to go and then tack it in place with the CA. We're going to try that on this first go round and see how well that's going to work. Okay, after much struggling and finagling, I figured out the best way to get these on was to glue the top part of it, really, because there's flat areas here underneath that you can get a good purchase on with the epoxy, and those are all going to set down, and then once the tops are glued, I can kind of push the bottoms in and out to match it so that everything looks straight and even, or as even as it's going to get. So we're going to let these guys set up for about half an hour and then come back and do the bottoms. Okay, the treads are on. They've been glued down. Like I said, the original thing I did was to clamp them at the top, let that much glue, or let that much stick. Do it here and here. And then I flipped it over after that had set up. And there are 2 points here and here that needed to also touch. So I slipped a little epoxy underneath that wheel and clamped it here and here on all sides, and that allowed me to pull the sides in to make them nice and even, to make the gap between the runners evened up. So those are ready to go. Now the last thing to do is to next to last thing to do. It's let's say last thing to do, part A and part B. Last thing to do is to put these face plates on, but I need to do them kind of the same way. Set all of these up to go. Let's see, I'm looking for the best face. I want to put my best face forward. That's not a good face. That's a good face. And that's not the best face. That's a good face. So that's the two that go that way. So we're going to have to use this one and this one. And go ahead and put the faces on, and then flip it over and put the faces on the back. And then these will all be finished, and we will dance happily in the street knowing we've got this much done this week. So let me mix up a little bit of epoxy. I tell you, I've been going through the epoxy on this kit. It has been an epoxy hog. I had to order more of the 1 minute stuff from Amazon because nobody here carries the 1 minute syringe type Loctite, which is what I prefer to use. So I've got another box of that coming. I can't get here soon enough. I'm down to my last 1 or 2 tubes of it. And I'll tell you, I could probably get away with using that here, because all I need to do is hit these 3 spots on each one where the faceplate is going to hit, and then that gives me enough time to do the positioning. Yeah, I'm doing the good faces first. So I want to make sure I've got the 4 best plates. I like, let me see. I like that plate just fine. We'll use that one. I'm just going through, is there another one I like better? Because these are going to be the outside, front and back. It's going to go like this on one side and like this on the other side. So these are going to be the visible ones. So let's get those, and I want to make sure I've got the 4 best face plates, and those are ready to go down. Okay, then we'll flip it over and do the other side. Okay folks, here we are outside of the final weathering, which won't happen until all of these parts are joined together. This is the long last look you'll see at a lot of these tracks, because this part of it's going to be covered up by the tub. But I think, you know, it was a long road to getting from there to here, but I think they cleaned up nicely. I think they're going to weather up even nicer. But I think I'm ready to get the tub and at least sit it on top so we can start getting an idea what the thing is going to look like. Okay, the treads are not carefully mapped out. They're just basically in place because I'll have to wait till I can flip this thing over on its head to exactly position them. But that's looking pretty much as what it's going to look like. I think now, of course, you're seeing everything in a very rough state as far as the tub. But let me see if I pull out the lighting or the batteries and switch the lights on. At least the down lights. Those are the top lights. Those are the down lights. Okay. Pop that back in. Oh, I still have covering. Now, I was wondering how come I wasn't seeing any light. It's because I still have the covers over the top of the vinyl on top of the. Same reason these are covered up. I had the vinyl on top of them still. But we're getting a closer idea of what the whole thing, kill the top light, what it's going to look like. Starting to look familiar. Yeah, and next week it's going to be all weathering all week. I took the tape off of there so you can see up inside of that. The sides are still taped, but getting a good idea of what we're dealing with finally. And the treads are all that work covered up, but yeah, they're there. I can get them in and get them squared off and level and all of that. But she's a big one. And that's it. That's week 3 on the Sandcrawler. I think we should be able to finish this up next week. All we got to do is get out the old paint roller and start weathering up the tub. I think I'll just take it. Well, you know, I'm going to have to do an overall thing because I want it all to be consistent. I was thinking if I take it a wall at a time. But some of the stuff is going to have to be put on a... I think what we'll do first is we'll do the undercarriage and then get the treads glued on. That way we can set the thing on a turntable and, you know, be able to make sure that all of the weathering is consistent around the whole thing. But it's a big baby. It's a big baby. I'll lift it up. Let's see what happens if I lift it up. Oh! Yeah, that's the tub of it. And it's, again, the treads are... they're done. Well, they're done for now. They're done until the final weathering. So until next week when we will do that final weathering, you all be good to each other. Be safe. Be smart. Be back next week.